Hey, this is Dimitri with Hyrule Canucks, and today we're taking a look at a rather unusual case from Antec. As most case manufacturers shift focus towards space efficiency, Antec is taking the opposite route with this 1900 Ultra Gaming Tower, and they are pricing this in a very high bracket of $250. Now, from the looks of it and the sheer size, it appears to compete against the 900D and the like. So let's find out whether it stands a chance within the current market scene. The 1900 comes in two flavors, the red and the green, and this splash of color is spread from the front mesh to the rear PCI brackets and the rubber grommets on the drive caddies inside. I'm not particularly fond of the exterior plastics. Let's just say it doesn't complement the price. The large rectangular window reveals all the essential internals, and the case does stand on large rubber feet that are adhesive and not screwed in. Again, these small details that don't exactly complement the price. The front panel has 3 optical bays, including 6 USB ports, 4 of which are USB 3, so that's excellent to see. We also have audio jacks and PR buttons. Now be aware that the front panel is screwed in, so taking those off, we get access to 3 120mm Antec fans. There are no other fan mounting options here. Now first of all the connections are attached to the panel itself, so removing it during a fully built system may be challenging if you tightly secure all the cables. Second, the intake strips are quite small and the fans included are not high static pressure fans, so default cooling may come as a disappointment. Each fan is also covered in individual dust filter and has a low and high speed adjustment that you will need to access from the inside. And coming around to the back, we have 2 power supply mounting locations, 9 PCI brackets, so eATX motherboards are supported, exhaust fan, and a fan controller. So that's really good to see, but that would make for some uncomfortable routing as the Molex and the hub are located right there at the top in the corner of the case. Now, Antec has always been great for providing enough ventilation where needed, so that's exactly what we see here. Now, a removable power supply dust filter is included at the very bottom of the case, but no option to mount it at the above position, which I think is an oversight. The top of the case has some ventilation, and removing the panel you can see how unfitting the price is for all the plastic that you get. But that's not really the issue here, as the 1900 is placed in the Ultimate Gaming Tower category, and we only have dual 120mm top fan placement. No larger fan supported, and as you can see, a third 120mm fan would have fit perfectly, and there's absolutely no excuse for not having a triple fan slot at the top considering the gigantic size. Each fan is also covered with dust filter, but because it is attached with 2 screws and 2 pegs on each side, you can't use these with a radiator. So really poor design choices all around. Alright, maybe getting inside the case might change our mind about this gaming-oriented chassis. Now, the reason for its resemblance to the 900D is the bottom chamber. The bottom doors are covered with noise-absorbing foam, as the chamber is primarily designed for storage, and the door uses this push-to-release mechanism instead of thumb screws. So on our sample, one of the doors locked fine, and the release system reset itself. However, the other door wouldn't stay closed as the mechanism was way too stiff and it would give out, so a slight bump to the case and the door would just fly open, and that's totally unacceptable for the price. I'm also surprised to not see any radiator options integrated into the bottom chamber. Why in the world would a gaming-oriented case have that much storage potential? Maybe if you're considering a server build, that would be useful. There is plenty of clearance for long power supplies, but absolutely no flexibility. For example, if you mount your power supply in the above position, this space is left underutilized. You cannot move any of the hard drive cages for additional storage, there are no additional fan mounts for extra cooling, and overall a total loss of potential. The top chamber has almost an identical layout to the Antec P280, so if you'd like to see the resemblance, check out that review. The hard drive cage is non-removable, so that's very limiting in many ways. For example, it would have been nice to remove it to mount a 240mm radiator at the front, but the frame is riveted, so it's not removable. It does support 2 120mm fans that are attached with clips, so that's very appreciated, but the hard drive cage is non-removable, which makes no sense with the addition of this extra storage chamber at the bottom. But it seems Antec didn't even bother with modifying the design for the better. For example, the 2 SSD slots are kind of pointless considering the drive caddies are backwards compatible, but to make things even worse, the SSDs stick out at the front, meaning there's a large gap at the rear for all your SATA cables, so routing routing isn't made easy. Another disappointing aspect of Antec's lack of quality control was with the installation of 3.5-inch drives. The screws provided are slightly too long, allowing quite a bit of play between the drive and the caddy. Luckily, there are rubber grommets, but even the basics like drive mounting screws should not be overlooked. The rest of the internals look pretty good with over 13 inches of clearance for your GPU. We have large rubber grommets and a few large cable ties at the back for all your cable needs, complemented by an ample of space for routing. If you use the very bottom power supply location, there are a couple of large cable cutouts available at the back of the case and an extra one on the floor above. And once finished with the assembly, I realized there are no cable cutouts underneath our ATX motherboard, so routing isn't as clean as it could have been, plus there's so much wasted potential given the size of the internals, and the bottom chamber is pretty much left underutilized unless you plan to run a server of some kind. Now, on a better note, there is over 3 inches of clearance until our memory modules, so push-pull is an option, but again only for a dual 120mm radiator. And it's not a surprise, it cleans up well at the back too. Now, regardless of the positives like the insane storage potential and pretty seamless cable work, the 1900 is a total flop for a gaming category. First, the incredibly disappointing build quality from the plastics used to the bottom door latches. Then there's the lack of proper airflow for such a large case, along with extremely limiting water cooling options. The drive cage is non-modular, there's no flexibility for the bottom chamber, the poorly designed SSD slots and screws for mounting drives are too long, the placement of the rear fan hub is uncomfortable, and at this price point it doesn't really show that Antec has put much thought into the 1900, let alone place it within the gaming category. It's just disappointing that the company is not listening to users' feedback, as we really wanted this to be a success, and Antec really should reanalyze the design, hopefully with improvements across the board. But we sure want to hear your opinion on what would make this a true competitor within the ultimate gaming category. So leave your comments down below, don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.